with its large tech workforce, and given that Indian engineers are contributing to most of the AI efforts that are happening in the United States and the West. So to that extent, there was a lot of expectation what India will do in the field of AI.
You may know that less than 10% of the funding today organically goes into socially sensitive sectors.
Right.
So when you talk about climate and sustainability, agriculture, education, less than 10% of the AI funding actually organically goes into this. Everything goes into consumer tech,
Right.
fintech, because there obviously the business case
Right.
is stronger there.
We launched Bhashadan for crowdsourcing datasets. We have
Right.
built a huge corpus of datasets in Indian languages so that when we are training a model using these datasets, they don't hallucinate. They are able to give the right responses, and they are able to ultimately solve the problem at the last mile.
I think we as a country really need to pivot. Just like, we still depend on US, for bulk of the software products.
Of course.
That mindset has to now shift in the age of AI. If we have to become the pioneers in technology, we have to focus on the infrastructure, we have to focus on the foundational models. We can't just be at the top of the stack.
Welcome to India for the World, a podcast series brought to you by Mint and BCG. Today we're speaking about AI for the world and the way India is bringing AI to the masses and innovating beyond what's available. Joining us today in this episode is Abhishek Singh, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT, and Chief Executive of the India AI Mission, and Saibal Chakraborty, Managing Director and Senior Partner and Lead for Technology at BCG. Abhishek sir, thank you for joining us today. Of course, you're leading India's efforts in the entire AI space. And the India AI mission has been much talked about. We've dissected it. We've also met multiple times. Currently, where we're standing, both in terms of the global position of AI as well as the India AI mission, how do you see or how do you feel about the progress that we've already made in terms of the efforts from the government as well as the efforts that the private sector has put in?
See, like AI, of course, has become a buzzword, especially since the ChatGPT moment, though the
Right.
technology has been around for a long time. But the productization of AI, when everybody started becoming a user and started realizing that they are making a use of AI, AI has become much more commonplace, and there were huge expectations globally from all countries, but especially a country like India, with its large tech workforce, and given that Indian engineers are contributing to most of the AI efforts that are happening in the United States and the West. So to that extent, there was a lot of expectation what India will do in the field of AI.
Right.
Of course, we are much behind what US and China is, but given that, the government, what it did was that it tried to identify what are the gaps in the AI ecosystem, in what ways we can address them, and in what ways, given the talent that we have, we can rightfully occupy the space in the overall AI ecosystem.
Right.
So the working groups that were set up, they identified the key gaps, which included lack of ability of compute, not having an Indian foundation model,
Right.
or not having the data sets ready for AI use.
Right.
So towards that objective, the AI mission was approved by the government in March of 2024. And in a little over 1 year, if I can say, the India AI mission has moved forward on all the 7 key pillars under the
Right.
India AI mission. Most importantly, under the mission, the one objective was to make GPUs available.
Right.
The initial objective was to make 10,000 GPUs available to those who need it. Today, with the effort of the India AI mission, we have empaneled 14 service providers who are offering a total of 34,000 GPUs.
Right.
And more importantly, at a low cost, at a cost of 65 rupees per GPU per hour, which is less than $1,
Right.
compared to the global prices of $2.5 to $3 per GPU per hour.
Right.
So to some extent, the requirement of compute, the shortage of compute problem that was there has been resolved to some extent, so that our startups, our researchers, our entrepreneurs, our industry can get access to this subsidized compute.
Right.
The second key thing that we have done and moved forward is the AI datasets platform.
Right.
In fact, the AI Kosh that was launched by the government this year has already been used by lakhs of researchers and entrepreneurs. We have around 1,000 datasets from public authorities as well as private sector, which are made usable. So the way AI Kosh has been designed, and incidentally, Saibal and BCG have been an active partner
Right.
in building the AI Kosh platform. So the way it will be visualized is that it will be like the Hugging Face of India,
Right.
wherein Indian datasets will be made available, models will be made available, tools will be made available,
Right.
and it will serve as a sandbox. It will provide a sandbox environment for those who are trying to try out AI applications, building AI applications, can access everything: data sets, models, compute, and then even application. They can try out the applications. That's how it has been moved forward. We have moved forward on that. On foundation models, we have identified 4 Indian startups. We got more than 500 applications. We have not been able to evaluate all, but the first phase, the 4 startups with Sarvam, Socket, Gyani, and GAN. These 4 startups are building foundation models, and hopefully by end of the year we'll have an LLM trained in India, trained in Indian context, which will serve a lot of requirements. And the way we are visualizing is maybe we'll have a primarily voice-based LLM. So that would be something different. It will work in all Indian languages, and it will help solve many of the governance challenges. Similarly, we have moved forward on the skilling piece, on the startup financing piece, on the applications piece, and on the effort to make safe and trustworthy AI solutions.
Right, absolutely. And Saibal, you of course work very closely with Abhishek sir. And you also, interestingly, speak with a lot of companies. You see the application development from the other side as well. With your conversations with corporate India, do you see the same sense of urgency from enterprises also coming into the picture in India now?
So I think the push for AI, whether it's in public sector with national level initiatives such as India AI Mission, or in the private sector, the push is absolutely real. I mean, I'll just quote one piece of statistic. Indian developers are the 2nd largest contributors globally to GitHub AI projects.
Of course.
So that itself tells you, and they develop irrespective of public sector or private sector, right? So that itself tells you the push. In the corporate world, what we have seen, starting with the banks and the financial services institutions, there's a massive push to do pilots now. Pilots in customer service space, any processing space, where you will never fully replace the human need. But if you augment it with Gen AI, you can achieve efficiencies of the order of 75 to 80%. Without sacrificing any of the human touch or the accuracy. So we are seeing a very huge push. I think Sir mentioned indigenous LLM models. I would like to add that SLM models, which are tailored to the Indian context and unique Indian needs, agriculture, healthcare, the way we speak in India, there's a lot of vernacular language in India. We don't run on English, so the need for the AI models to include the vernacular languages and also the nuances. When we say Hindi in a certain way or English in a certain way, Indian guy means it very differently from an American guy.
Of course.
So if you use an American contact center Gen AI solution, you will not be able to copy and paste and apply it to an Indian context. So we are seeing a lot of push from the private sector to also adapt using SLMs, using India-specific contextualization. So the push is absolutely real.
Absolutely. Sir, I'll come to you on that note. Government missions, of course, have historically often been seen as sort of like a backing to an industry which comes in at a point when it's probably either developing or it's developed, but it needs a further push, like we've seen in electronics, of course. Now, with the AI mission coming in at such a nascent stage, at a foundational stage, how big an impact do you think the government funding, the resources that are being made available, would contribute to the kind of efforts that Saibal just mentioned?
See, government's role is primarily, in a way, we are going by the DPI playbook. If you look at India's stack, or if you look at the digital public infrastructure, what did it do? It kind of provided the common elements which everybody required to build tech products and solutions to serve various sectors as a common platform, so everybody does not need to invest in the same infrastructure. Like, for example, identity is something that everybody required. The whole fintech boom happened because you have to have identity. Digital payments, you required an interface like UPI. Or for document verification, you required the data architecture and you required a platform like DigiLocker. And then on top of these basic building blocks, multiple applications in healthcare, in agriculture, in education have been built, in fintech has been built, which is kind of, most of the unicorns will see in some way or the other using this common layer that is built in. So similarly, in the AI space, when you have to do multiple customer service applications, ultimately you will require the backbone, you will require compute, you will require data sets, and you will require the whole architecture for being able to play that. You will require Indian foundation models. You will require a tool like Bhashini, so that if you have to enable voice-enabled services, you should be able to offer that by using those APIs, and not every company need to invest in all of it. So the common elements that are required are being provided, and on top of it, we are encouraging our startups and entrepreneurs and researchers to innovate and build value-added products. And when that happens, what it results in efficiency gain in almost every sector. If you look at me and you, people like us, what do we use it for? Today we use Gen AI for doing more in lesser time. If I use ChatGPT, or if I'm using Llama or any tool, if I have to read a 600-page document, I can summarize it in very little time. If I would have done otherwise, it would have taken hours together. So I am becoming more efficient. I'm able to do much more with that. Those who are doing coding are similarly using AI tools to do code more in lesser time. So efficiency gains are happening in our domain. If you take this similar thing to a farmer or to a small businessman, if a farmer is able to use similar tools to reduce the water that he is consuming for his agriculture, or to get the right farmer advisory so that he optimizes the input costs, how much fertilizers he is using, how much pesticides he is using, if he is able to maximize his gains, where he should sell his produce, where he should sell. So all that information at what price he should sell is today made available with AI tools. Similarly with small businesses, for the inventory management, how much he should stock, how he should plan, what product mix he should have. So if these efficiency gains will ultimately result in economic gains in across the sector of the economy, and that's where AI will really be the game changer. It will add to the GDP, it will add to the per capita incomes, it will ultimately help us move forward on the path to Viksit Bharat.
Absolutely. I want to diverge from the serious note for a second. Do you use AI tools in your everyday life to scan
I do use a lot of those tools for personal work as well as for somewhere. In fact, the ChatGPT just launched an open source version yesterday. So what we are doing is that, see, government information cannot go on a public platform because for data protection and all laws, I cannot send any government information on a server which is not an official server. So what we had done so far is that we had installed the open source models, the Llama models, the Mistral on Aravat infrastructure that we have in CDAC and on the NIC machines. But yesterday when we heard about the ChatGPT coming out of the open source model, so we in fact immediately got it tested. We installed it on a laptop. And we tried to do inferencing using that. And it worked. It worked even on a laptop. But of course, it took a lot of time. It took 17 minutes to reply to a single query. But now we do believe that since it works, open source models work, ultimately I should be able to install it in the NIC infrastructure, the Meghraj infrastructure with GPUs there, and government officers can use, so that if we have to analyze documents, if we have to analyze lengthy files, or if we have to come to a conclusion with regard to how different things correlate, I can do much more within the government. So we are, personally speaking, I do use, but I do believe that as we go forward, we'll be having much more usage of AI in our day-to-day work. For example, on e-office. E-office is something that all of us use. On that, we have built in Bhashini APIs, and we are able to do our dictations by giving a voice command. I can do file notings in Hindi, I can do it in English, I can do it in Bengali, Tamil, all languages has been enabled. So going forward, there will be more and more usage of AI in whatever we do, making us much more efficient and effective.
Absolutely. Saibal, do you similarly use it in your...
So I'll just tell you a very interesting thing. I have stopped using Google search for the last 6 months.
Not even the AI mode that Google's come up with?
I tend to use ChatGPT a lot more. My son is applying for, higher studies. So which universities to choose, what subjects to choose, what cutoffs. I mean, it's not just information. It's also, you can always say that there's a risk with the models that they hallucinate
of course.
sometimes, right? So you always have to use your own, judgment and other sources of input. But do I use it in my day-to-day life? Absolutely. Absolutely. Every little thing is now, at least informed by ChatGPT. Not decided by ChatGPT.
Of course. And that's very interesting, in fact, that you mentioned this, because the theme of our discussion, of course, is AI for the world. And we're seeing, people like us who often on the internet at least communicate with English as the primary language. Access to these tools for us is, of course, easier because we've been using the internet for so long. You've, of course, been involved in the entire internet infrastructure for a while. When we speak about building AI for the world, when it, of course, starts with India, um, is it a difficult task, do you feel, to bring in such nuances into Indian languages, trying to bring in the factor of ethics in the use of AI, accuracy, hallucination? Are these sort of challenges that concern you on a policy front?
See, the basic challenge is the lack of availability of sufficient number of data sets in all languages.
Right.
Like, for example, if I'm training a model in Indian languages,
Right.
I am limited by the availability of data sets. A
Right.
simple, like if you look at Wikipedia pages, most
Right.
of the models are trained on freely available content, and
course.
Wikipedia is a major source.
Right.
If you look at Wikipedia pages, there are millions of Wikipedia pages in English.
Right.
If you look at number of Wikipedia pages in Hindi, some time back somebody told me it's around 260,000 or so.
Right.
If you look at number of Wikipedia pages in Bodo or Mathli or Konkani or even Bengali SMEs,
Right.
there's a few thousands.
Right.
So the ability of the model to pick up the nuances in these language datasets becomes limited.
Right.
So that is why under the Bhashini project, we did a lot of effort. We launched Bhashadan for crowdsourcing datasets. We have
Right.
built a huge corpus of datasets in Indian languages so that when we are training a model using these datasets, they don't hallucinate, they are able to give the right responses, and they are able to ultimately solve the problem at the last mile.
Right.
And what we also believe is that, like in India, very often we say that 900 million people are connected to the internet.
Right.
But
Of
whenever
course.
we say that, we are also saying that 500 million people are not.
Are not.
And that's a huge number.
Right.
How do you bring these 500 million people onto the digital space?
Right.
They will need services and applications in Indian languages.
Right.
And I would say that voice-enabled services. They would like to talk to an application. A farmer will not go to a agriculture department website or
Right.
INAM
Of
to
course.
find information.
Of course.
He would rather want to talk to a smartphone and say that what is the price of bajra in the nearest mandi, or what should I do if my crop is showing this.
Right.
A query in his mother tongue in voice,
Right.
and a reply back in voice.
Right.
That is what he needs. And we tried that out. It works. And then we took a step further. We tried the same solution on a feature phone on a toll-free number
Right.
with a voice input and a voice output, and it does work there.
Right.
So these kind of solutions, and that's where I say that the Sarvam, Sockets and Gyanis and GAN, my ask from them is to build up a voice-first LLM.
Right.
Think in terms of voice input and voice output.
Right.
Not that text is being translated to voice.
Right.
Voice first, and that will be a game changer. And this works in India.
Right.
This will be in our offering to the whole world. When we host the Impact Summit
Right.
in February next year,
Right.
this is what we will offer to the countries, the global south.
Right.
Many countries in Asia and Africa will face similar challenges.
Right.
How do we empower people at the last mile? And if that kind of section of people is able to use such tools to become more efficient, more productive,
Right.
everybody will benefit in the long run.
Right. Are you seeing the sort of early traces of voice as AI's primary interface? Do we expect that to be the way forward?
I would believe that that would be the way, and I would say that maybe in the next 5 to 7 years, the keyboards will not exist. We'll forget that keyboards are needed.
Right.
The entire interaction will be more human, just like we are talking to each
Right.
other. We'll be talking to the machines in the same way, and the machines will respond
Right.
in voice.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Saibal, do you see something similar?
So absolutely on the voice front, absolutely the need for the models to communicate in indigenous language is
Right.
paramount.
Right.
Otherwise, as Sir said, this will never spread to the nook and corner of any country.
Right.
Whether
Absolutely.
it's India, Indonesia, you will need that local language capability. I think one very important thing when we talk about AI for the world and what India AI mission, I've been very impressed by it, is when we talk about funding startups in
Right.
the India AI mission,
Right.
you may know that less than 10% of the funding today organically goes into socially sensitive sectors.
Right.
So when you talk about climate and sustainability, agriculture,
Right.
education, less than 10% of the AI funding actually organically goes into this. Everything goes into consumer tech,
Right.
fintech, because there are obviously the business case
Right.
is stronger
Of
there.
course.
What the mission is doing consciously is to encourage hackathons, encourage startups in these socially sensitive sectors.
Right.
And this has a huge implication for India and also for the global south.
Right.
Because the problems of the global south, whether you take, I do a lot of AI work with Indonesia, Philippines.
Right.
The problems, the use cases they talk about are exactly the same.
Right.
So if we are helping such startups grow, then the impact of those startups will not just be within India.
Right.
That will actually help the global south as well.
Right. Do you feel that a voice-first AI model which is trained on Indic languages, could that become a template that could be replicated across other languages and be successfully implemented in other markets?
Absolutely. I mean, look, scientifically, no reason why it can't be.
Right.
As Sir was saying, the basic issue is the absence of data.
Right.
Actually, I mean, I think Sir also alluded to this, the AI algorithms have been around before we were born.
Right. Of course.
What was lacking is the data, the storage, the compute.
Right.
We have the compute and the storage now. Those
Right.
are very cheap now, right? But the data, we still have to solve the data problem.
Right.
And that I think, just like Sir was referring to Bhashadan, other countries will have to do that kind of, crowdsourcing initiative in their indigenous languages.
Right.
But absolutely.
Right, absolutely. Sir, are we looking at having conversations with the global south, other nations, to try and see if they're interested in this model, the way we exported UPI as a digital public infrastructure?
See, most countries, the global south, do look at India as a model, especially when it comes to implementing digital transformation projects at scale.
Right.
We have seen that at a DPI story. We have seen at G20 how the global consensus came to set up a global DPI repository.
Right.
So similarly, in AI, we have several countries. We have MOUs with almost 20 countries in partnership with digital transformation that includes AI. So in our interactions with them, in our discussions with them, they have been looking at how we have got compute available at a low cost, how we have built the AI coach platform, what is it that India can offer to them if we have an AI application to diagnose tuberculosis or to diagnose breast cancer, can it be shared with them? So we do hope that the India AI Impact Summit that we are hosting next year will ultimately come to a similar solutions, like can we build up a global AI repository for use cases?
Right.
Can we build up global AI tools for addressing the challenges of AI, because AI
Right.
is also not without risks.
Right.
AI also comes with many
course.
AI models comes with the obvious bias, hallucination, deep fakes, misinformation. There are several challenges.
Right.
So there are tools to diagnose them, tools to detect them, tools to ensure that models conform to ethical guidelines, frameworks to assess models.
Right.
So we are developing all of it. So that is also something which the global south is interested in.
Right.
So whether it's our compute model, whether it's our datasets model, whether the application that we are building or the tools that we are providing for, or even capacity building. How do we build capacities? Because again, another challenge with AI is future of work. Like on one hand, we are saying that everybody is becoming efficient.
Right.
But the flip side of that is when everybody is becoming efficient, then some jobs will become redundant.
Absolutely. We're already hearing that.
If one person is doing the job, 3%, what are the other two people doing?
Right.
So it will require massive amount of reskilling, upskilling, training people so that they are able to take up the jobs in the data economy, AI economy. It will require rewriting the curriculum, not
Right.
only at the engineering college levels, but across these streams. Because again, AI is something which is horizontal.
Right.
It cuts across. AI is not limited to IT or to tech or
Absolutely.
engineering. AI is there in commerce, AI is there in law, AI is there in every discipline that you think of.
Right.
So we are working towards that. We are working towards bringing AI as a curriculum, part of the curriculum at school level.
Right.
So the entire effort that we are taking to train people, to skill people, that's also something the Global South will learn, because these are similar challenges that all of us face.
Right.
So today we are at an era where all countries are almost equal.
Right.
And the challenges are similar and solutions will also be similar.
Right.
Advantage that India as a country has, especially with AI, given our large numbers, if there are applications and solutions which work in India, the probability that they will work in any other geography or any other jurisdiction will be much higher. So we
Right.
have a lot to gain in this sector given the right investment, and the India AI missions policy push and Government of India's support is in a way contributing to that.
Right, absolutely. Continuing on that note, Saibal, I want to start with you on this one. Of course, these are very important issues, and AI has sort of become like the primary, I would say, commodity of sorts. Not even a commodity; it's the primary medium through which all industries are trying to reinvent themselves. How much of the reinvention or how much of the innovation do you think would come from government backing versus the private sector's push to break the barriers?
So the answer is quite nuanced, and it's a different answer sector by sector.
Right.
So for example, private sector will push for AI where it's beneficial, from a business case standpoint.
Right.
So would a bank push for a more efficient customer onboarding solution enabled by Gen AI? Absolutely.
Right.
Would they push for a more efficient solution in education at the grassroots level? They have no reason to, right?
Right.
So government's role primarily comes in, as I was trying to say, in the socially sensitive sectors,
Right.
where AI will not naturally penetrate unless it is given a firm push by the government.
Right.
So we spoke about digital public infrastructure. If you look at the successful use cases of digital public infrastructure globally, you will understand that wherever DPI has scaled up,
Right.
it has scaled up with very, very strong government support.
Right.
So, in payment systems, like what we have in India or in national ID, these have all been government led.
Right.
Because businesses would naturally not invest in A, that kind of foundational infrastructure,
Right.
and B, they will not invest in socially sensitive sectors. As I said,
Right.
less than 10% of the funding today
Right.
goes
Absolutely.
to socially sensitive sectors. But 53% of the funding overall goes to AI startups.
Right.
So you can see the difference where the funding is going, and that's why government has a critical role to play.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And so on that note, do you, Abhishek sir, do you expect to see the common compute infrastructure, which is a very unique thing globally that we've managed to establish? Do you see this becoming a DPI offering to a model which we can replicate in other nations in the future?
See, a lot of countries are showing interest. They are showing, and our entrepreneurs who have invested in. Because see, ultimately this model is also very unique in the sense the government has not got ahead and bought the capex. The investment is made by the private sector, and we have allowed them to make it available if the government doesn't need it, if our startups don't need it. So they are free to offer it to other countries. Other countries have shown interest. So I am sure there will be a lot of interest. And when that happens, there will be huge opportunity for our MSPs and our investors to expand the capacity. So right now we are sitting at 34,000 GPUs, which will very soon be expanded to 40,000. But I do believe that when that happens, the demand for compute will grow up, and then we will also have the AI factories of 100,000 GPUs as we see in the West.
Right, right. We also have powerhouses in the form of CDAC and our own sort of organizations and institutes which also make foundational technologies like CPUs and GPUs and supercomputers. Is there a plan to sort of leverage that to bolster our AI capabilities as
See,
well?
a lot of effort is going on in the semiconductor mission, the design incentive scheme that is working on, and there are a lot of researchers and private industry within India
Right.
who are working on designing a GPU chip in
Right.
India and getting it manufactured.
Right.
So that's something, again, that's a very, very important focus. So our focus, of course, the AI mission is focusing on the models and getting the compute available, but the entire AI stack, right from the chip to the applications to the last mile applications, our effort is there in all directions along with the semicon mission, and we do believe that in a few years we will have an designed in India, made in India GPU chip on which our applications will be powered.
Right, absolutely. That's a very exciting path ahead for the future.
Yeah, but we are just working on that,
Right.
and we'll kind of announce it when we are able to do it, rather
Right.
than putting the horse before the cart.
Right, absolutely. And in fact, it's interesting that the GPU comes up because, globally tech development has always been very US led, specifically the US because of the way innovation has happened. And Saibal, probably you might want to chip in on this one, that now that we've come to this AI era, we're also seeing multiple nations trying to say that
Yes.
we want to develop our own AI models, we'll build our own infrastructure. Of course, the world is more divided than probably what it was in the 1970s. So, given where we are today, do you see the control of the United States companies? And of course, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, all of them have a big presence in India. They also work with us closely. So how do we balance that, trying to make the most of their expertise versus trying to promote our own ventures?
See, I think eventually, like we kept saying for the IT services industry, India has been historically very good at two things. One, in the services space, and second is building applications on top of models.
Right.
If you look at actually 80% of our AI startups, they're using the foundational models and building applications on top.
Right.
That is something that we have been historically good at. But as we were saying, with AI, unless you are able to build the foundational models which cater to your unique needs, you will actually never be able to fully leverage the power of AI.
Right.
If you genuinely want to leverage AI for agriculture, for education, as Sir was saying, the whole voice-based approach, ability to integrate vernacular languages, ability to integrate Indian data sets and tweak the algorithms based on those data sets, that foundational effort has to happen in the context of AI.
Right.
Otherwise, I feel we will always remain an user of AI,
Right.
which is not what this mission is trying to do, as Sir said, right from the chip to the end application.
Right.
We want to be the leaders in the whole stack,
Right.
not just at the top of the stack.
Right.
So that effort has to come in. Right now, I would say our startups are not organically doing that,
Right.
because the easier path to profitability is by focusing on the application layer.
Of course.
The foundational layer requires a lot of effort,
And it's very expensive as well.
very expensive, and requires a very different kind of talent.
Right.
Inventing a smart business model and inventing a LLM model
Right.
are two
Of
slightly
course.
different skills.
Right.
So I think we as a country really need to pivot. Just like we still depend on US for bulk of the software products.
Of course.
You don't see an Oracle database in India, right?
Right.
But we use an Oracle database for every business application.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
mindset has to now shift in the age of AI. If we have to become the pioneers in technology, we have to focus on the infrastructure, we have to focus on the foundational models. We can't just be at the top of the stack.
Right. Right. And for that, should we have a concerted effort to boost R&D and the ability for tech companies to file patents in
See,
technology?
that's what is going on. See, the entire ANRF initiative, the 100,000
Right.
crores that has been put up, the RDI initiative that was recently launched, which allows incentives to the private sector to also invest in R&D, that's going on. So government is providing the flip. But what we also would love to have is the Indian industry joining hands. And when that happens, when the TCSs, Infosys, Wipro, the Indian IT industry, which has so far led us in the research space, in the services space, if they start investing in research, if they start getting into product, if they start building AI product solutions, LLMs, that's where we'll really be able to unlock the value of that we have today.
Right, absolutely. I think we're coming to a close, so we'll start wrapping up. Going forward, say end of 2026, of course, next year, February, we have the Big Impact Summit coming up. By the end of 2026, India and AI, what is your vision? Where do you see we stand?
See, I do hope that we will have at least 5 LLMs designed, made in India, which will be used across the sector, not only by the government, by the industry also. I will see a huge jump in usage in education, in fintech space, in enabling, unlocking lending, in microfinance, in fraud detection, in agricultural applications. So I do believe that at least 50 to 100 applications will be rolled out by the end of 2026, and there will be many people who will be using AI solutions in order to do their day-to-day jobs much better, much easier.
Right.
Because in any team also that we see, we always find that there are 20% smart people and 80% people who also are part of your team.
Right.
So that will ensure that all 100% become smart. So
Right.
the AI will become like a big leveling tool. It will ensure that we are able to do whatever we are doing much more effectively, much more efficiently. And if this happens across the board, it will have huge economic gains. That's what
Right.
is my view that will happen.
Absolutely. Saibal, same question for you, but in a slightly different way. Looking at corporate India in conjunction with the government's efforts, where do you see us standing by the end of the year, next year?
So I would, for some of the big corporates that I work with, I would like to see them by the end of 2026 truly scaling up and integrating Gen AI into their core processes.
Right.
Right now, what's happening is pilots, and people are doing it in isolation because they're afraid of putting it to scale.
Right.
I would like to see them as having conquered that fear,
Right.
and the models have become sophisticated and well trained enough to be used at scale
Right.
by the end of 2026.
Right.
That would be my hope for the corporate sector.
Right.
I do want to add one little thing for the public sector, or rather for startups as a whole. Today we have 6,000 AI startups.
Right.
80% of them are still focusing on the top of the stack.
Right.
By the end of 2026, with the help of the government and other forces, I would like to see a better balance in that.
Right.
I would like to see more people building foundational models, products, versus just the business layer on the top
Right.
of existing models.
Right. Absolutely. And with such definite calls to business and calls to action, it's time for us to wrap up AI for the World, the AI edition of India for the World, the podcast presented to you by Mint and BCG. I'm Shavik Das, your host from Mint. Thank you very much. Goodbye.